Next, we get an exclusive insight into the unrest in the Middle East and North Africa in our special interview.
Our guest today is the President of the Republic of Yemen, Ali Abdullah Saleh. Mr. President, please tell us your opinion as to what caused the current crisis in Yemen and what could have happened behind the scenes.
The crisis in Yemen did not occur today. Back in 2006, after the presidential election, differences emerged between the General People's Congress Party and parties of the united opposition. Despite the fact that the election had been transparent and fair and had been monitored by international observers who reaffirmed it had been fair, the opposition considered it undemocratic and did not accept its result. The discontent was first peaceful, but then it grew along with criticism and rallies. The events in Tunisia and Egypt, due to the coverage of a number of satellite TV channels, first of all Al Jazeera, reversed the situation upside down. When covering those events in Tunisia, Egypt and Bahrain, the channel called them chaos of wrath. So did the united opposition parties. Civil unrest kept growing day by day. Demonstrations, blockading of roads, disruptions in delivery of gas and oil products from Mareb, exploded oil pipelines. All that was used by the opposition to aggravate the crisis. The population, on the contrary, expressed its discontent about the growing chaos and unrest, but not the disruptions in gas supplies delivery. Citizens demanded that the blockades of roads and infringements of law and order should be stopped. Now those individuals who get together on the cheating square, not the change square, are nothing else but the lowest layers of society. According to the law, my term expires in 2013. I agreed to step down in 2011 so as to put an end to chaos and standoff in society and to let normal life be restored and discontent stopped. But they, the opposition parties, don't agree. They don't need order. Now, as for the initiatives of the Persian Gulf countries, their mediation envisages the creation of a government of national unity to consist of representatives from opposition parties and the General People's Congress and its supporters. We agreed to that, as that would lessen the crisis. However, the opposition denied this mediation. There are certain political terms and security terms. First of all, it's about street protests. They should be discontinued and criminals should be passed on to justice. Rebellions in some parts of the army should be stopped and the military officials should surrender to the authorities and leave the country. It also concerns civilians who have committed crimes during the protests. They should surrender. I am not mentioning any names, but they are known. The initiative of the Persian Gulf countries represents a consistent system of measures which should be either fully accepted or fully denied. One can't agree to one provision and disagree to another. It's impossible to jump between provisions. On our part, we hail this initiative and are ready to sign it, with one condition, however. It does not concern the contents of the initiative, but the mediators. A certain mediating country is involved in a conspiracy against our country and is being in constant touch with the opposition and is financing the crisis. This country is Qatar. Today, Qatar is financing the chaos and unrest in Yemen, Syria, Egypt and perhaps all over the Arab world. They have lots of money, although a small population, so they simply don't know how to spend all that money. They want to be a significant country, though, in the Persian Gulf and in the region in general. To that end, they're using the Al Jazeera TV channel. As you may know, many presenters of this channel have resigned following their disagreement of the policy of the state. The channel lost its professionalism and responsibility. Its managers have become mongers and provocateurs for the whole of the Arab world, as well as some European countries. With regret, I am stating that this country has become involved in a conspiracy. I mean conspiracy. So we are not going to sign the initiative if Qatar is present. All the foreign ministers of the Cooperation Council of the Arab States of the Gulf suit us as mediators in resolving the crisis, except Qatar. The money from that country has brought about chaos, unrest and bloodshed in Yemen. We do value Yemen blood. We are sorry that that country became part of a conspiracy, not only in Yemen, but all over the Arab world.
The opposition in Yemen says you first agreed to accept the initiative of the Gulf countries. Then you speak about constitutional legality and your right to remain at your post until 2013. Are you linking your possible stepping down from your post to the need for achieving an accord about the initiative of the Gulf countries? Or are there other scenarios or mechanisms?
We agreed to accept the initiative first of all for the sake of avoiding bloodshed in the country and return the situation into its natural course in the economy and politics. That is why we accepted the initiative, although it does contain signs of an unconstitutional coup. Should those provisions be indeed implemented, we'll hail it. Should, however, it be implemented selectively, we'll reject it as strongly as we possibly can. Anyway, we did accept all its provisions and signed it. Now it's time to bring it to life. I do hope the foreign ministers of the Arab states of the Persian Gulf will work out a mechanism that will enable this agreement to come to life.
Mr. President, when do you think it will be more expedient to transfer your power? And what do you think of your political future after you resign?
As for power transfer, I agree to what has been proposed in the initiative of the Gulf countries. I have absolutely no objections in this respect. As for my political future, I can say that I will remain chairman of the General People's Congress Party and will be busy with our political work in the party until the next Congress when a new leadership is elected.
Are you going to go into politics again? I mean, will you strive for power?
No, I am not. The question of power is over for me in any form. I am not going to stand for president. I will still remain chairman of the party I created in 1982, so I may leave the party only when a new leadership is elected.
The opposition accuses you of clamping down on demonstrations and of using excessive power. What can you say in reply?
It's not true. It's them who attack the garrisons and bring unrest. Our security forces have no instructions from the authorities to use force. On the contrary, the National Defence Council decided to absolutely ban the use of force. The opponents, on the contrary, are using force and weapons.
How do you assess the positions of regional players, of international organisations and of superpowers towards the current crisis?
First of all, I would like to thank Russia for its constructive stance at the UN Security Council. As far as regional players and Western countries are concerned, they're putting out feelers and viewing various options of possible further developments. They're trying to determine who is coming next. Actually, they behave in such a way as if everything were decided upon and the power had been transferred to the opposition. The opposition has not yet gained power. There is a wide range of political forces, and the majority is on the side of the General People's Congress. Our opponents reject the idea of holding presidential and parliamentary elections because they are aware they won't be able to gain a majority. We propose to them to hold alternative presidential and parliamentary elections. Our opponents, however, are against holding any elections. As a matter of fact, we are having an unconstitutional coup. They're trying to foist onto us their projects and are against a constitutional transfer of power in 2013. We're even ready to agree to their projects so as to avoid bloodshed, although all these projects are unconstitutional. Some countries of the region and some Western countries connive at these tendencies currently seen in the so-called New Middle East. It is this the controlled chaos scenarios are prepared for. It is enough to have a look at what is going on in Egypt, Tunisia and other countries. This scenario cannot be called otherwise than a plot against the region. That's what I believe. To that end, they would stoop to anything. Some political forces sow grains of hatred, revenge, and are trying to do whatever they can so as to gain power at any cost. They consider power as a means for profit, but not a heavy burden.
Society in Yemen is split. It's hard to tell which side has a majority. For example, the actions of your former supporter, General Ali Mohsen al-Ammar. What is the evaluation of his actions? Are such splits posing a danger for Yemen's future and its territorial integrity?
He came over to the rebel side, having witnessed all this tumult in the university. He saw people speaking out, proclaiming revolutionary slogans, dancing. He decided the regime would very soon fall and decided to join the young rebels in order to save his own skin. He's part of the regime, isn't he? He came over to the rebels to save himself.
Given I am speaking on behalf of Russia's media, could you share your opinion about the relations between Russia and Yemen, as well as their prospects, either under your rule or under another government?
Russia-Yemeni relations have long traditions based on mutual interests, friendships and agreements. They're not going to be affected at all. Russia's position at the UN Security Council is ample proof of that. It was a positive, well-balanced position. The whole of the Yemeni people respect it.
To sum it up then, what would you tell the united opposition forces and the Yemeni youth movement?
The youth movement consists of young people who are members of the united opposition. As for the youth itself, they're on our side. I would like to tell the opposition the following: return to dialogue, mutual understanding and reconciliation. The interests of the Yemeni state are superior to all the partisan and political interests. I'm appealing to you for a mutual understanding, a fair and frank dialogue. You cannot incite people to protests while you remain indoors yourself. All the leaders of opposition parties don't go out of their homes. Even Ali Mohsen al-Ammar has constantly been in a military compound without being able to go home for lunch because he is afraid of going outside. Let's have a dialogue for the sake of the interests of the whole country. These interests are above all. This is what I would say to the opposition.